this computer. Good morning, everyone. Charles Park, Broker Manager, Remax West. Today is the 2nd of December. It's nice and chilly outside, which is why I'm wearing a turtleneck. So for those of you who are joining us when this is being recorded, today's the first day that the new PropTx MLS rules take effect, which is why we're having this meeting. There are a significant number of changes. I don't want to go through all of them. However, I do want to go through the bulk of them, which I didn't do during the Realm training course that I did a couple of weeks ago at Thornhill. I only touched upon a lot of the stuff that affects ad edit, because obviously if you're using Realm and you're in ad edit, you are familiar that there are a number of things that we traditionally did as realtors in the past. We're no longer going to be doing some of these things, and that's what we're here to talk about, because there are definitely changes. All right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to share my screen. And where are we here? That's the Zoom screen. Share screen. Where is my... I had it open. Stop share. Let me get back into this real quick. That's not what I want. That's the Zoom. PropTx. Here we go. Zoom. Share screen. There we go. Can everybody see that? All right. Okay. So we're going to go through this really quickly. We're going to jump down to Article 3, which is really the crux of this. Now, if you guys are wondering where to find this, if you actually go to the home page of TREB, don't click on Search Properties, don't click on Realm, and you click on the announcement that today, effective today, we are starting these new rules, okay? And let's start off with the listing information and attachments, MLS Rule 3.01. I want to give you a little bit of background for those of you who are seeing this for the very first time. The PropTx system is now going to be the MLS system for 90% of the province. We have had a number of real estate boards join the Toronto Regional Real Estate Board in selecting PropTx as their MLS of choice. And as such, as you can understand, the various number of real estate boards throughout the province all had different MLS rules depending on what MLS platform that they were employing. So what the committee had to do was to decide and how to homogenize all the rules right across all PropTx users. So if you're not familiar with the terminology PropTx versus TREB MLS, what we used to call Stratus and all these different definitions, feel free to unmute yourself, chime in, put in something in the comment box that we can sort of discuss so that you guys are familiar with at least with the terminology, because a lot has changed. For those of us who are familiar with the old strata system that we used in the past, I know we all loved it. It made us lots of money, but it no longer exists. So we had a choice a number of years ago to choose between Matrix or Realm. And I believe every February or January or so, you get a notification on being able to choose. So I'm not going to be discussing anything regarding Matrix, which is a CoreLogix product. I'm here to talk about PropTx. Okay, so let's dive into rule number 3.01. This has specifically to do the brokerage remarks. Members are responsible for the accuracy of all information submitted to the MLS system, including photographs and all documentation. No language in the MLS listing shall be used to override or diminish this responsibility. What I really want to call attention to this is that a number of agents have historically been trying to dislodge the listing agent's responsibility or the listing brokerage's responsibility in saying things like all measurements are to be verified by the buyer and the buyer's brokerage. Do not warrant retrofit status of basement apartment. Any due diligence that would normally be part of the listing agent's job should be their job. You can't just sit there and go, well, I don't want to do it. Oh, verify taxes. That was the other one, right? Buyer to verify taxes. because I'm just going to put in a ballpark number, but if you need to know what it actually is, you guys go and do that. You can't do that. That diminishes the responsibility of the listing agent, so you can no longer use those comments. Any questions about that stuff? I know that a lot of people are like, but I put that in every single one of my listings. Well, you shouldn't be putting those in every single one of your listings. Okay. I want to jump down to 3.03. All MLS listings submitted to the MLS system shall be completed on current approved MLS listing agreements and MLS data information forms. Sounds pretty standard for those of us who have been in the business for decades, but I'm actually going to stop sharing this really quickly. And I'm going to go back into my Treb and I'm going to click on Realm. So let's click on that. Let's reshare this. Now, I wasn't here last year for the vast majority of the time when all these changes occurred. I'm going to click on what a lot of people call the Rubik's Cube. It's actually the resources menu. And I'm going to click on Add Edit. And I think this is a really valuable thing for all of you to understand. When I was spending time on the MLS Technologies Committee, do you remember when we used to be able to take web forms, type in all the information on web forms, and upload that to Stratus? You all remember that? So everybody wanted that back. Exactly, right? So it was so convenient because we could prepare all the MLS data forms, go get them signed by our clients, and then take all the information from that data form and upload it to Add Edit. So what they did alternatively is, watch this. I'm going to take an old listing of mine, which was my parents' house, Wildflower. So when you're in Add Edit and you edit a listing, right, you can look for previous MLS listings. Okay, so let's select this one. I think this was mine. Yeah, this is my listing. That's my photograph. What I like to do, like we all do, we like to clone. So let's clone this listing. Okay, and because I am a manager, it doesn't default to my name, but if you're not a manager, it will. I'm going to create this out of thin air, just on a historical MLS number, right? And as you can see, it creates a draft. You see that draft number here, guys? If I click on validate, it's going to tell me what information I'm missing, and it's all going to get highlighted in red. Now, we may not know all the new information when we go to get a listing. So a really cool thing that PropTx has provided us is the preview. And if I click on preview and click on generate and create an MLS draft, as you can see here, I've created a valid MLS data information form. Because I've created this in Add Edit, all I got to do is get my clients to sign this, add the missing information that I have, go back into Add Edit, modify it. The front desk actually has access to your drafts. You can actually give them this draft 1752224. You can give them that number. And they can actually go in it and find what you've already created. Have you saved yourself and the staff time?
You have to validate the missing
Yeah, so
so
you need all the valid information fields, just like before. So if you're missing any valid information fields, let's close this. If we click on, for example, amounts and dates, I need a list price. I need the taxes. I need the tax year. All of this information is missing, guys. Okay, so yes, it will create a draft for you, but you can't submit this listing. Okay. The other thing I also wanted to go out and say is I know that Remax West has been very forthcoming and giving all of you guys full Add Edit privileges. I will tell you this, I'm actually attending a management meeting tomorrow. We are discussing about truncating some of those robust Add Edit features that we're giving all the agents with agents that do not provide paperwork on time. In order for you guys to submit a listing, right? The rules say that the brokerage must have the listing paperwork. Okay. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. So if we don't have the paperwork, why are you guys adding listings to the system? It's almost incomprehensible. So we got to know what's going on. So you guys got to communicate with the actual branch or the administrative staff, right? And don't submit listings. I know that people like to do them on a Saturday night when there's no staff here. You know what? I tell you what, if you guys are submitting things after hours, kind of have to have a discussion as to why that needs to occur. Should be really happening during regular business hours, and we're open 7 days a week. I don't know why it can't happen during those hours. Okay. Yeah, you can ask questions, and if you guys want to chime in and unmute yourselves, you guys can do that as well.
So what happens if Isn't all of the listing validation and then you press validate, does it actually upload or what?
No. It'll, then
Just-
all the
it just-
triangles disappear. So the question was, can you upload something that has something that's not validated or something that's missing? The answer is no. You can click on submit all you want. It's not gonna upload.
Oh, but if all the valid, if all the fields that are showing up that's unvalidated, if they're no longer there and you press validate, does that mean that it actually uploads? Then
Okay,
it's just-
uploading and validating, two totally different things.
Okay,
So
what-
when you're doing your first broker load, we can go through that mini, right? I think you're just getting a little confused because you haven't done it yet. Right. No problem. Okay. So, hang on, Zoom. Am I sharing this screen with you guys? Yes? Yeah, okay. So let's keep moving. 3.04. Let's read through that real quickly here. It's going to be right in the center of the screen. There we go. So all remarks must appear in the appropriate field on an MLS listing as follows. The public facing fields, which we know, which are the client comments, right, shall only display comments which are pertinent information concerning the property, including but not limited to, right? The broker remarks shall only display comments which provide pertinent information that could impact cooperating brokerages, including but not limited to. This is really important. Any terms of the MLS listing agreement that would modify the total remuneration payable to the listing brokerage or the offer of remuneration payable to the cooperating brokerage and to the seller contact information. So let's kind of look at that B column for a sec. For those of us who do we're buyer agents and we're researching the MLS, and we see in the brokerage remarks, and we've seen this repeatedly, and I'm going to date myself, back in the day when we used to have collateral agreements, just say there was a commission reduction for the listing agent saying if they bring their own buyer, that they've got a collateral agreement in effect with the seller to reduce the total amount of commission that's payable. So if you were to bring your offer and then the listing agent has an offer of their own, they're going to be reducing their commission. Are you entitled to know that information, yes or no? Yes.
We should.
Right? Go ahead. Oh, maybe someone sneezed. So that is one example. Okay. So the collateral agreements, should they exist, must be disclosed in the brokerage remarks. The other one was, and this is very controversial, is when the listing broker puts in saying if the listing broker or any of the agents of the listing brokerage for a brokerage listing show the property to a prospective party, that if they bring their own agent, they're going to reduce the commission by 1.25 or 1.5%. They can't come in after the fact and say, oh, well, I showed this property to your client. I know you're bringing me the offer. I know you've got a BRA, but you see this MLS? It says right in it that I'm reducing your commission. I'm cutting your commission in half because I showed it to your client. You didn't show it. You may have come back and showed it the second time, right? But because I showed it the first time, it affects the amount of commission that I'm going to pay you. Now, very controversial. A lot of people get up in arms saying, well, that's not legal. I'm like, well, it's been actually vetted through a couple of different other boards. I believe it was the Hamilton or Niagara board that actually almost invented this in Ontario, because what Toronto agents are doing, especially during the pandemic, they were just sending their clients out there that wanted to move out there saying, call the listing broker, just show you the property. If you want to put in an offer, just give me a call back. We know that was happening. So it's bad behavior like that caused these rules to occur. Okay. C. Yeah.
So that applies if there was a BRA prior to showing it.
So I'm not going to get into the professional standards and arbitration rules. I'm just saying that if anything affects the commission, it's got to be disclosed in the brokerage remarks. Okay. The offer remarks field shall display all comments related to the registration of offers and seller direction, including but not limited to. This is going to be a little bit interesting. The date and time of an offer presentation, that's obvious. If a seller is reserving their right to review preemptive offers. So for those of you who remember some of my previous seminars, Joe Rishi actually said something really poignant in a group discussion once. He didn't understand why agents at all held offers. If you're going to accept a preemptive offer, why are you holding offers in the first place? It didn't make any sense to him. Well, that is an MLS generated sort of phenomenon. So the RICO doesn't govern MLS, we govern MLS. So we created our own rules for the MLS system. So if you are a seller and a listing agent, and you think that by holding offers, but putting in a comment saying that the seller reserves the right to receive a preemptive offer, really what you're saying is there's no offer date. Anyone can put in an offer whenever they want. Okay. So anyways, let's keep moving on. Number 3, seller direction at the cooperating brokerage is not in attendance during offer presentation. This is a little bit misleading sometimes, is that sellers, and I know that buyer agents get really pissed off because they want to bully the seller into accepting their offer. It's a phenomenon. Yes, we know that there are agents that like to put themselves in front of our sellers and badger them into accepting their offer. There's a reason why they put in this provision. So if a seller does not want to see the buyer agent or their clients, that is in their rights. I'm going to say that this should be boiled down into writing. We should get this in writing. Okay, so the direction regarding offers, if a seller is not comfortable in being present live for those offer presentations, that should be their right, but we should document that. Okay. And D, the appointment showing remarks field shall display all information regarding showing the property. What comes to mind are tenanted properties, which should be fairly obvious. Tenanted properties need 24 hours written notice from their landlords, so we need to respect that. Okay. Rule number 3.05. Oh, my down arrow is not working here. Information published on the MLS system shall relate directly to the listed real estate and the MLS listing agreement. So no personal promotion. You're not promoting something that's going on in the neighborhood, a festival that's occurring. None of that stuff should appear on the MLS when you're doing that. In the brokerage remarks field, I'm going to scroll down to this area down here. The brokerage remarks field may include the name, address, telephone, or email address, or facsimile number, I'm not sure who's using fax, of members to be contacted for more information concerning the property. This is valid. I know that some people were just like, oh, you shouldn't put that in there. And I'm like, well, it's in the rules. We're allowed to go fish. Okay. Let's go to rule number 3.07. This one I actually discussed in the realm training I did a couple weeks ago. Quite a long rule. Without limiting the generality of the foregoing and the other provisions in the MLS rules, any such MLS listing shall not be accepted by the association as an MLS listing if it excludes any members showing the property. I know that we all have bad blood with an agent one way or another, and like, yeah, I'm never going to let that agent in my listing. You can't do that, guys. You know, I'm sure some people wish they could, but you can't. Okay. B, if it excludes any members from acting as a cooperating brokerage, right? That's a no-no. The most notable point here is C. If it's not accompanied by at least one image of the listed real estate subject to the exemption that is listed real estate is not built, may use a photograph of the land, an artist rendering a map indicating the location of the real estate, or a photograph of a model home with the photograph label indicating as such. So when you're thinking about uploading your listing, some of us like to upload listings without any photos. That's not allowed. You can't even upload a photo coming soon, right? I know I've seen agents put personal promotion on those, you know, photos coming soon thing because they haven't done the virtual tour yet. They haven't got the professional photographs done yet. So this may be a little bit not familiar to the vast majority of us. Some of us have seen lots of MLS listings with no photos whatsoever. I'm going to tell you why. The Toronto Regional Real Estate Board, in conjunction with the technology that PropTx has implemented, they're investing a lot in artificial intelligence. And one of the tools that they're going to be implementing, or they've already recently implemented, is looking, it's like Pinterest. They're going to scan all your MLS photos and they're going to look for key features. And we're going to be able to tell by the artificial intelligence reporting whether or not a key feature has been detected in any other photographs that exist in MLS. So 2-car garage, in-ground pool, right? These are things that you might want to look up when you're looking for properties. And for some reason, sometimes listing agents don't always disclose that they've actually got all these features in the MLS, or they get it wrong for some particular reason. You know, the front picture looks like it's a single car garage, but then you realize, oh my gosh, it's in tandem, right? There's 2-car garage, but it's one in front of the other. things like that can occur. So we are trying to employ as much artificial technology as we can, scanning your images in order to make a determination of whether or not there are features in those photos that a consumer might be looking for. Okay? A little bit unusual, but nonetheless. 3.08, if a submitted MLS listing is deemed invalid as herein before provided, the association shall send notice to the member who shall remedy the information by 11:59 p.m. on the next business day. So gone are the 2 days. We used to get 48 hours to do anything. And even when we received a TREP violation notice, we thought that we had 2 business days to remedy the situation. That is no longer. You have until 11:59 p.m. the next business day in order to get that accomplished. And that is blanket. There's nothing in these MLS rules, right, that have extended any kind of remediation, I guess we could call it, remedies, past the 11:59 p.m. Expiration date of the next business day. So it's important to realize that if you do receive one of these, and maybe you're one of those agents that never reads their emails, right? Well, the brokerage is also going to be getting a copy of your violation. We're going to be on top of you. I swear to God, like it's not something you can just sit there and think about. We're going to fix it for you, because if we don't fix it for you, if you don't fix it yourself, they're going to take your MLS listing down. How are you going to explain that to your client? Where's my listing? Oh, somebody took it down. Oh my gosh. Also, D, if all mandatory fields have not been completed, where realty taxes are required to appear on the MLS system. Guys, did you guys get your impact training when I was gone? Was there any impact training done? So we know that impact provides a lot of information. And one of the most important things that they're providing you are extrapolated taxes. They have now taken the mill rate of the municipality that your listing is in, multiplied it by the assessment value for this particular year, and they're actually going to be giving you the extrapolated estimated taxes. So there's almost no reason why agents in today's age are zeroing out the taxes and going further to say, oh yeah, buyer to verify taxes, because they're just too lazy to even ask the seller for a copy of their tax bill. It's nuts. Okay, go to MPAC. It's free. Look up the property. Look at the extrapolation of the taxes. We're going to be doing a full MPAC seminar in the near future, especially when square footages are going to be coming for free from MPAC directly into Ad Edit. So when that happens, guys, come on in. We're going to talk about it. Things are going to be great. You don't have to buy that $5 report anymore. 2, a mandatory field will not be deemed complete unless the information in the field is accurate. So you can't just make stuff up. And 3, all registered title holders must be included in the seller field. Do you guys remember seeing contact listing agent for sellers' names? Why? I don't get it. Okay, I sold a property in Port Perry. I had 13 owners. It was land. There were 13 registered owners. There's not enough space in the seller field to put 13 names. So what did I do? I put them into the brokerage remarks. But they've got to exist somewhere, guys. So why would you hide them? I think we get the odd client going, I don't want anybody to know that I'm selling. Well, how would you respond to that when we have these rules? The general population can't see a seller's name on a listing. So that's not the issue. We all have access to Terranet, Geo Warehouse. So if we all have access to it, why don't you put whoever's on title on the MLS? Weird, but true. Okay. 3.08. If a submitted MLS listing is deemed invalid, right? Herein before, I already went through that. They're just going to take it down. Let's go on, flipping the page. I want to talk a little bit about forms. That's 3.09. A member submitting an MLS listing or cancellation or suspension of an MLS listing to the MLS system represents and warrants to the association that the member had been so authorized by the persons legally entitled to sell the property and agrees to indemnify and hold PropTx and the association harmless from all claims of third parties if this is not the case. if you guys are reporting things on the MLS system without the authorized persons who own the property, without their consent, and we can't prove that they gave you consent to make these modifications, right? First of all, PropTx is saying, hey, that's on you guys. Okay, that's not on PropTx. You guys did it. So let's talk about the form. Why would you report anything that has changed on an MLS system without having the forms that of those changes signed? Would someone like to give me an excuse? Seems kind of straightforward to me, but I know that people do it. No, well, you know what? That's why we're going to be discussing tomorrow at the management meeting who deserves full audit and who doesn't. Because if you're not giving us paperwork, right, we are in violation of this rule. If you're not communicating with your client on the changes you are making to the MLS system without their consent, you are in violation of this rule. Plain and simple. Okay, let's move on to 310. Only one MLS listing for any one trade function signed by the same seller may be placed on the MLS system at any one time. The following are examples of what are considered separate trade functions under this rule. Sale, lease. You can have two. Okay, one's for sale, one's for lease. B, furnished or unfurnished for leases as well, right? One is the price for the furnished, and the other one is for the unfurnished, right? Sell by property owner and power of sale. This has actually become taken into consideration just recently because we've got more power of sales lately than we've historically had in the last couple of decades. But there's a lot of banks out there that are invoking power of sale, and they're selecting their own agent to list the property. And oftentimes you will see that the seller hired their own agent to sell it, and that is sitting on the MLS at the same time that the lender who is invoked power of sale, so they can't systematically make you take it down. They can't sit there and go, oh, you got to take your listing down because I'm selling a power of sale. Yes, is it confusing? Sure it is. And most often than not, the actual seller who has their listing up with their agent has it for a higher price because they want more money. I don't know why an agent would see both and want to deal with the original homeowner rather than the person who's selling it under power of sale and their agent. But from the board's perspective, from PropTech's perspective, they don't really want to enter these muddy waters. So they're going to allow both to exist at the same time, right? Pending the sale of that property, in which case whoever gets that sale must report it and the other must either cancel it or report that same sold price, right? So those are little gray areas that haven't been quite covered yet, and we're going to cover a couple of different gray areas as well. What I also wanted to point out here is for commercial listings, okay, I know that we have those mixed properties where it's commercial on the bottom and residential on top. You are allowed to have that property listed on both the commercial side and the residential side of the MLS. Okay, let's talk about 3.13. Go down. Oops. What's going on here? There we go. 3.13. An MLS listing shall show the names of all brokerage members that are party to the MLS listing agreement. If there is insufficient space in the specified field, then this information can be continued in the brokerage remarks field. What I referred to earlier. However, if you are a listing agent, and let's say you're part of a team, and under designated representation, under Trust and Real Estate Services Act, 2002, we know that there are specific agents that are designated to that particular listing. And if say you're a team of 5 and all 5, right, are designated, right, you want to put all 5 names somewhere on that listing agreement, use the brokerage remarks field, so that an agent that's putting in an offer can know specifically who has the authority to deal with this, okay? Under designated representation, interestingly, managers, if they're not on the physical listing agreement, even though the brokerage is, are not permitted to represent that listing. Although that's a little bit gray, it's interesting that, you know, in the event that a designated agent is not available, and quite often agents will reach out to the broker of record or manager in order to try to get some kind of information or response. You know, we can provide assistance, but we can't actually physically represent that listing unless our names physically appear on that listing agreement. Okay, so that's just another gray area to consider. That was 3.13, I believe, right? And we're going to jump down to 3.15. Any exclusion shall be in writing and shall be not binding on a cooperating brokerage or self-represented party unless notice of the existence of the exclusion is published on the MLS system. An MLS listing agreement and document attachments that includes an exclusion that has the effect of limiting a listing brokerage's obligation that would otherwise exist under the MLS rules shall be subject to refusal or removal from the MLS system. So let's take a look at a few different examples. The provisions of the MLS listing agreement are set out under the following headings: warranties, Family Law Act, verification of information, use and distribution of information, successors and asides, and conflict or discrepancy. So basically, you don't want to exclude if it has direct relationship to the listing. Okay, and when I think of warranties, if there's carry-on warranties in effect, that should be disclosed. The Family Law Act, I'm not sure if you guys are familiar. I unfortunately have been dealing with a lot of divorces in my time. Are the possessory rights, it goes back to why do we need spousal consent? The spouse is not on title. Why do they need to sign? It's because the spouse has possessory rights that need to be addressed under the Family Law Act. Those are just two examples that this is covering. Okay, so if there is some kind of impedance involved, it should be disclosed. Okay, let's keep moving. How are we doing for time? 10:35. We're halfway through. We might have some time to spare. Let's keep going. I want to hit 3.16. The MLS listings appearing on the MLS system shall be immediately available, subject to applicable legislation and the rights and of reasonable accommodation to the occupancy for showings, inspections, and registration of offers. So for those of you who remember the old TREB rules, MLS Rule 345 pretty much is a very similar rule. I think back to the day, I'm from Richmond Hill, where there were a couple of Richmond Hill agents that used to love uploading MLS listings to the system and saying, oh, no showings for a month. Well, why would you not show it for 1 month? No showings until next week. Why? Right? Because what were they trying to do? Sell it to their own buyers. Right? That is impeding. That's not respecting the cooperating agent at all. I remember being that agent, being parked in front of the house as the listing agent was showing it. You wouldn't let me show it to my clients, but here you are showing that listing to your own clients. So a number of those complaints did come through TREB. Eventually, they did come up with the rule saying, you know what, if it's on MLS, not only do you have to show it right away, but you know what, you got to be able to receive offers. Now, there are directions from a seller in writing, extenuating circumstances in which they would say, you know what, I'm not going to be able to entertain offers because I'm going on a holiday. This was the best time for you to show the property because I'm not going to be home. You can immediately confirm all the showings, right? And when I come back from my holidays, I would like to suspend those showings and see if there's any offers. That's valid. But you get that in writing, guys. Okay? Let's jump down to, in the event an existing MLS system, MLS listing becomes unavailable for showing, inspections, or registration of offers, the MLS listing shall be suspended by the listing brokerage. While under suspension, a record of all requests by cooperating brokerages for showings, inspections, and registration of offers shall be kept by the listing brokerage. So we're going to continue here at the office, right, to keep a track of anyone who's expressed an interest, right, in showing that property, even though it's been suspended, terminated, whatever the case may be. Because should it ever come back to the market, you are now obligated. I did have a RICO case a couple of years ago where, and I'm going to go back to the cancel and relist. My particular agent from this company canceled and relisted the property. Unfortunately, we were dealing with a fairly new receptionist at the time, and she did not merge the broker bay information from the previous showings to the new listing. And so when he announced that he had received an offer, right, all the previously interested parties that showed under the old MLS were not notified. And so a RICO complaint came through, okay? So these circumstances can occur. I just want to be transparent, and the brokerage will always try to make sure that we're going to do what we can on our side in order to mitigate exposure to these types of occurrences from happening to you guys. But I would love it if you guys could work with us and communicate with us whenever these circumstances do arise. Okay. Upon the seller rescinding the suspension, the listing broker shall immediately notify all cooperating brokerages who have requested showings, inspections, or registration of offers. That seems quite prudent, okay? 317, I didn't talk about this in the last training. It pertains to the information necessary for preparing an offer. That is a mirror image of what occurred before. For people who are trying to suppress specific information on the listing agreement for any particular region, it's not allowed. You have to have enough. So what do we know, right? What is the asking price? That's mandatory, right? You kind of want to know when you want to take possession, like what possession date would you prefer? That's in the MLS system, right? Who are the parties that are going to be able to sign this? In the eventuality that it's like a trust, like a trustee, right? The trustee should be listed, so we should know. If it hasn't been probated, because it's the estate of, then as cooperating agents will know to insert the probate clause because it hasn't been probated, right? Because there's probably going to be a delay in the completion date, but we need to know for how long and so forth. So all of these things that specifically affect your listing that may not affect all the other listings really should be on the MLS system. Let's go to 3.18. In all instances where an MLS listing commences, the listing broker shall process the MLS listing through the MLS system by, there it is, 11:59 p.m. the next business day following the commencement date of the MLS listing agreement. So you have 1 business day to get this up, okay? No 2 days anymore, okay? 3.19, in the event that the MLS listing salesperson is no longer associated with the listing broker shall ensure that the MLS listing salesperson field contains the broker of record or manager's name, or the name of the member who is familiar with the property. So the brokerage can designate a representative of a listing should that particular agent, for some particular reason, no longer be associated with that particular listing. So that is spelled out in black and white. Here's what we're actually going through. I think Shelley's on the call. We actually had to deal with this just last week. We've been systematically going through all the new MLS data forms that you guys have submitted to the brokerage. And intuitively, well, let's read the rule first, shall we? 3.2, where the lot size of a residential property is irregular, the listing brokerage shall report the frontage and the smaller dimension of the depth and identify irregular, right, as the lot shape on the PropTx MLS system. Counterintuitive, isn't it? What have we always traditionally done? If I saw that the lot was 150 feet deep on one side and backing on a ravine, but on the shorter side, it's only 100 feet, I've lost 50 feet off that depth. And I naturally think that I want to put the depth as being 150 feet because it's there on the one side. Well, PropTx and the rules that govern it disagree. I got to use the 100 feet. I can't publish the 150. I know people are just like, well, that doesn't make any sense. There are, I guess, circumstances and cases where they felt that it was a misrepresentation of the listing to begin with. Because what if it's a triangular shaped lot, roughly triangular? What depth are you really talking about here?
Can you manually say, 100, you put 100, but then in the brokerage remarks, one side is up to 150?
Well, it's already telling you. So the question is, can you put in the brokerage remarks an explanation, but still put in the longer edge? The answer is no. Okay, you must put in the shorter edge, the shorter depth. Now, we can also cover, those pie-shaped lots that are curved on a crescent, right? And they all show different lengths. I've been using the impact frontage. So I used to live in a house where the frontage was only 33 feet, but the back was 150 feet. So it's very narrow at the front and very wide at the back. I was inclined to add up all those little, how around that curve, there was a straight line of 33 feet. And then I wanted to add the curve. I can't add that curve.
Can you say extra wide in the back?
Yes, you
Okay.
can give descriptions
Okay.
and they encourage that, but the actual number that you put in for frontage and depth should follow those guidelines, okay? Did we talk about the listing 3.21? The listing broker shall update the MLS system no later than 11:59. How many times have we come across this? Let's hammer this into your brains, guys. How long do I have? 11:59 p.m. the next business day. 11:59 p.m. the next business day. They've gotten rid of everything else. Okay, there's no discretion. Let's go into 4.01. reporting. So this is for the people when you actually have changes to the status, okay? When an MLS listing is processed as both residential and commercial MLS listings on the MLS listing, the trade shall be reported for both MLS listing numbers. What was traditionally happening in the past was, and then I don't know how this is going to look on the lease side. Let's say you have two MLS listings. One is for sale and one is for lease, and you end up leasing it. Okay, so what happened to that listing on the sale side? It leased for $3,529. It seems weird. Yes, you were selling it, but this is where I'm trying to get clarification from PropTx is it seems counterintuitive again. Like I have it listed for, 1.2 million, yet I leased it. So I've got to report that yes, a transaction did occur. It didn't get leased. It sold, it got leased. So they're asking us to put the trade for both MLS listing numbers. So guys, bear with me. I'm trying to get clarification on this. I don't know how it's going to affect the statistics that, it didn't really lease. So bear with me on that.
We're not going to see the suspenders anymore.
Well, this is the whole thing. We were just canceling those listings because we didn't sell it. We leased it. So we reported the lease, but we didn't report it on the sales side. It's weird, right? Let's talk about Rule 4.2. This is actually quite long. The sale, lease, or sublease of a residential or commercial MLS listing shall be reported by the listing brokerage. We know it's 11:59 p.m. the next business day, right? Members shall not be permitted to avoid these notice obligations to the association by, for example, canceling an MLS listing between receipt or anticipated receipt. So just by canceling it doesn't get you out of jail, okay? And acceptance of an offer or encouraging seller to do so. So we have seen people in the past where the seller says, I don't want this sold price published on the MLS. I'm going to sign a cancellation. Can't do that, guys. And if you get caught, it's a fine.
So what if the listing agent and the buyer agent is like it ends up sort of lagging, and then you're trying to keep the deal together and the buyer's thinking, and then you end up missing that 11:59 p.m. deadline to either firm up or like what happens if you try to submit documents and it's past 11:59 and you're trying to keep the deal together?
So obviously the 11:59 p.m. is a hard time written in stone. We're going to have to deal with those circumstances on a case-by-case basis. Okay. The other thing is, how are you going to get caught? A little word to the wise here. Treb is investing heavily into artificial intelligence. I can manually scan the entire MLS for Treb violations myself. That's not my job. But Treb has actually employed artificial intelligence to scan the entire MLS system, looking for algorithms, with the programming algorithms into the system to look for your violations. So if they detect a violation, if they know that you have a listing that's been suspended, it's supposed to come out tomorrow, right? And you haven't reported it from coming back to the system, they're going to associate that time. They're going to look at the comments in the field, see if it's back on MLS. You don't need to be a human being to figure that out. Computer can figure that out for us. So they're going to be scanning the entire system and going, hey, is this person in compliance or not? It'll get flagged, and then a real person will look at it just to verify that there is a violation, and then you're going to start getting violation notices. Okay. A commercial sale, lease, or sublease price shall be reported. Now, there was a little bit of confusion. A lot of you guys don't know that we have a special provision on the commercial side of the MLS database where we can actually suppress the price until closing. You can't do that on the residential side. There's been a few suggestions to allow sellers to suppress sold prices. It's just right at this particular moment, the board and the powers that be don't believe that that is going to be that's just not going to fly. If you're an agent and you're involved in a multiple offer situation, and the winning offer wasn't you, you're going to want to know to report back to your client exactly what that sold price was, so that you can advise them on how far away they were, right?
Yeah,
But if you're going to give the seller a choice to say, you know what, you're not going to know what it sold for until it closes, That's not gonna fly. I can't imagine that any of you guys out there are gonna actually like that. So on the residential side, they're not going to do that, but unfortunately on the fortunately on the commercial side, because commercial is quite different. It's a very unemotional process. It does, you're not living in it. So they've allowed that provision to exist. Okay. You can report the original. Oh, watch this. The units of measurement, if they were incorrect on the original MLS listing, they must be corrected, right? When you do sell it, let's say it's discovered that the measurements are wrong, it's got to be modified. You've got to also, you have until the time reporting is firm. So if you've got a firm transaction, and I've noticed this with agents, even with this office here in Scarborough, I don't know why you guys like to hold on to your firm paperwork for a time being. Is there a reason for that? You guys just don't want to give it to us? I don't get it. You just and you guys are carrying around deposit checks in your cars for days upon almost a week, and then you decide, oh yeah, I sold this last week. Here's a deposit check, and here's the sold agreement. It's like, wow, like
Yeah, that's fine.
oh, you'll get punished, right? It's all about punishment, okay? At the same time as reporting a firm transaction and request that the price be suppressed until after closing. This is specifically on commercial transactions. I know that our deal secretaries, I can't call them secretaries, our deal staff, administrators, did mistakenly report a commercial sale where the seller did request that the price get suppressed until closing. They didn't do it, and there were some sparks flying as a result of that mistake. Okay, let's move down to 4.03. We still got 10 minutes, guys. We're going to power our way through this. Any sale during the holdover period shall be reported to the association by 11:59 the next business day. Okay. 4.04, right? Listing broker shall report a firm sale falls through or a conditional offer, right? To the association by 11:59 the next business day. How many times do I have to say this? I think the one thing that you will take away from this seminar is that everything is due by 11:59 the next business day. Okay. A unique circumstance for Rule 4.05. Let's move down a little bit so people can see it on the middle of their screen. Prior to reporting a transaction to the MLS system, chattels and other elements included in the sale price are not contained in the original MLS listing agreement shall be added to the MLS listing in the inclusions field. So you sold a swing set in the backyard that cost a few $1,000 for the kids. The purchaser really wanted it, so it wasn't included in the original chattels, and then you added that to the list of inclusions because before you report that it's being sold, it should be reported. Any furnishings, right? Any fixtures to the property that weren't included, right? Originally, but were included in the final agreement of purchase and sale must be reported before that MLS listing is reported firm. Okay? Yeah, on the MLS system. Because the last thing you need is for someone that's going to use that as a comparable, not understanding why it's sold for that particular price, because they're looking at the list of inclusions going, well, this makes no sense. So the example that I provided during the Realm Advanced training was furnishings. Stagers love to furnish our homes, don't they? And they pick amazing furniture. And then the buyer falls in love with the furnishing, saying, oh my God, could you just leave the furniture there? I love how you decorated it. And then all of a sudden you're like, well, yeah, there's like, you know, $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 worth of furnishings in this home. I'll pay it. Just included in the purchase price.
But the lender that it's gonna be.
Well, yeah, the lender's gonna wonder, well, why all
The
the
lender's gonna see it in the offer, the lender's gonna see it on the MLS.
I'm telling you guys, I can't tell you how many times people scratch their heads going, how did it sell for that price? Oh, included all the furnishings. Oh, I get it now. Okay. Where are we? Let's flip down to 501. We're in Article 5, advertising, our favorite topic. 5.01, every image submitted to the MLS system shall prominently feature the property, specific information about the real estate component itself, and aspects of the immediate surroundings, highlight that, immediate surroundings, that relate directly to the real estate component, including but not limited to scenery viewed from the real estate component. Now, when I was doing my realm training, I was like, I live in Keswick. I'm not right on the water. I'm down the street from the water. I've seen my neighbors publish photographs of the beautiful sunsets off of Cooks Bay. but you can't see that sunset from the house that you're selling. Is it allowed? Yes or no? No. But were people putting those pictures in the MLS? Yes or no? And here's why, right? People are using AI to scan for waterfront properties in the images. If it sees a waterfront sunset, it's going to automatically assume, right, that this property is on water. And they find it misleading. Okay, there's something in the chat box here. Let's take a look at this. Hey, Charles, so glad you're back with us. Okay, thanks, guys. All right. So I can't reiterate how important it is to follow this rule. And I think the why is more important than the rule itself. Photos, a picture is worth 1,000 words. Can we agree? So what 1,000 words would an artificial intelligence bot, right, conjure up when scanning a photo? And those words are going to be what's searchable. Okay, and that's really the whole thing that is behind this. Now, paragraph A, the following images cannot be included in the MLS system. This is the controversy right here. We're going to spend maybe 5 or 10 minutes, not well, 5 minutes just talking about this. We are all, in some which way or form, and I've seen so many times, people are digitally enhancing photographs. Now, I'm not saying that virtual staging is illegal. That's not what I'm saying. Virtual staging shows the original room, right, with furniture in it. As long as you're not modifying or removing walls and depicting something that isn't there, the home itself, not the furnishings, because you know what, when you buy a house, you're not really buying the furnishings anyways, then that will be allowed. However, you can't, and I'll give you the example that I had to deal with. Somebody took a member to task because their house was backing onto a hydro field, and they digitally removed the hydro tower and the wires from the front photograph. So when the agent, not knowing that it was backing on a hydro field, wasted the client's time because the client clearly said, I don't want to back onto a hydro field. Why did you show me this house? Well, I looked at the photo and I didn't see the hydro field, and I can see clearly now that must have been edited out. So that is a TREP violation, guys.
So when I've seen properties that, like, for example, burnt, like a barn house that's burnt, fire down.
Yeah.
And then they show what it looks like.
Yeah.
And they show a digitally altered image.
Yeah. Okay. So
could happen, what you could do.
You know what? I get it. There's certain exceptions, but what are you buying? It has to pertain to the property that you're buying. Okay. Sure. So if you potential, but you have to disclose, this is potentially what it could look like. So unbuilt properties, right? I'm going to post a rendering, but I'm going to fully disclose. This is a rendering of a property that's not built on this particular lot. That is allowed. Okay. Surrounding amenities that are not in view are not allowed, right? No marketing messages can be in the comment fields, right? And you can't have people, even caricatures of people. Now, I watch Hot Property, and you know, the host of Hot Property was digitally putting his head on all sorts of different shots. You can't do that on MLS, guys. Just don't do it. Okay. I want to skip down to permission to advertise. You guys should all know this. That is 5.04. Members other than the listing brokerage may not advertise an MLS listing unless an MLS listing agreement so indicates. Then members have received specific written permission from the listing brokerage prior to each occasion of advertising. Guys, I know that we have Back at You Media here at the brokerage. I even noticed a couple of my listings. I never got contacted by the agent, but you know, obviously my Back at You account shows who shared that listing and I guess scraped all the data off of it and posted it on their profiles. Guys, have some courtesy. Just reach out. Okay. I probably would have said yes. Okay. Just don't assume that because you like that property and you can see it, that you can advertise it without that person's permission, especially the sellers. Okay. 5.05, by submitting marketing materials to the MLS system, the member warrants to the association they have permission to use such marketing materials in that manner. Members shall only use marketing materials which they have created or purchased, including but not limited to all images, graphics, text, photographs. Any permission to use such information must be provided by written consent. Do not use somebody else's marketing materials without their permission. Just don't. Okay, that is an MLS rule violation. I'm telling you guys, don't do it. Okay, let's go into showings and appointments. Running out of time here. I shouldn't have to tell you guys that You don't tell buyers if you're late to open a lockbox, okay? That is, not only is that a PropTx rule violation, it's also a RICO rule violation, and the penalties are in the thousands of dollars, guys. So I'm gonna skip over 6.01. Let's go to 6.04. Oops, go down a little bit. 6.04 says, subject to the terms of the MLS listing agreement, member who is unable to keep an appointment to show or inspect an MLS listing shall immediately advise the listing brokerage prior to the appointment, who shall in turn immediately advise the seller or occupant. Now, here's where this changes. In the instances where the listing brokerage is unable to keep an appointment to show or inspect an MLS listing, the listing agent shall immediately advise a member who has the appointment prior to the appointment, who shall in turn immediately advise the prospective buyer. This is all about communication. You cannot just say, well, the buyer didn't contact me, and that's why your showing appointment, even though you requested it, came and went with no confirmation. Either which way, whether it's confirmed or denied, or you're unable to get a hold of the seller, communicate back to the cooperating agent what the hell is going on. Okay? So stop sitting in your chairs and eating bonbons, right? And just assuming that everything's hunky-dory. Communicate. It's right there in black and white, guys, in 6.04. Okay? Sounds like a lot of work. Yes, it is. That's why we get paid the big bucks. 6.05. Unless otherwise agreed to in writing, the seller and listing broker shall ensure that a registrant accompanies a non-registrant during the entire period said non-registrant is at the property and not only during the agreed upon period. Guys, when you're showing properties, why are people leaving? Or why are people entering properties in advance? That should never happen. And if that's how you conduct your business, not only are you going to get burned by these rules, you're gonna have a big chunk of change taken out of your bank account. It is unfathomable that people still behave this way in this day and age. Okay, especially with all the cameras that are out there, ring camera, doorbell cameras, and patio cameras, and people know, right? What the heck is going on? Final topic that I really want to go over with you guys is Article 7, remuneration. I'm going to jump down to 703. If the offer of remuneration is altered, such a change shall be made through the seller direction by way of completing an amendment to the MLS listing agreement and immediately reporting through the MLS system. Guys, we do not negotiate commissions on co-op agreements. Let's get that absolutely clear. Because the miscommunication between us as listing agents and the cooperating agents, when they want more commission, what ends up happening is that more commission that you're paying and coming out of your share, or is it coming out of the pockets of the seller? Did you have a conversation with the seller? Did you boil that conversation down to writing, which is an amendment? That's your contractual obligation with a seller that you guys have. So make sure that you are signing amendments, not negotiating changes in commission on co-op agreements. Okay? 704, remuneration can be offered to a cooperating broker is specified under the term of Article 702, 703 above. The listing broker shall require to pay the cooperating brokerage such remuneration, such as modified by agreement in writing between the cooperating brokerage and the listing brokerage. What comes to mind is when we don't have enough deposit to cover all the commissions. I get listing agents coming up to me saying, hey, we have enough to pay me. You can delay the co-op brokerage, but you can't delay me. I need my money. If it was sold on MLS, the answer is no. We got to pay the cooperating brokerage first before we can pay our own agent. So let's make sure that these lawyers are giving us these checks, even with the Canada Post strike. Go get the money. Okay, and that way we all get paid. Correct? Yep.
Altering commission.
Yep.
What you're saying is you're assuming that the altering party is the listing brokerage. What if the altering party is the property?
No, so yeah, so what they'll do is say, I see that you're offering 2.25% because we're in Markham. That seems to be quite popular in market for some reason. I don't know who invented 2.25 co-op, but there seem to be a lot of agents in market that are doing that. I don't work for 2.25%. I'm going to submit my co-op agreement. It's not on the MLS. I want 2.5. Well, where does that 0.25 come from?
So what if the listing agent says, okay, so the listing agent says no.
Where does the 0.25 come from?
It could either come from the listing broker. Oh, it has to come from somebody?
No, it doesn't have to come from anyone. Did you communicate to the seller where it's coming from? So if you guys are increasing the commission by 0.25%, expect the seller to pay it without asking them, what are you doing?
So if I'm a property broker, I don't have to worry about stuff. I just. worry
Well,
about
you know
the
what?
co-op.
The listing agent must be, clearly communicating with their client as to what total commission is payable. Now, when we were sitting in this room with Oria's legal counsel on the screen, we actually talked about how there's a total commission on a listing agreement versus the cooperating commission. That total commission is payable to a listing brokerage, regardless of what we negotiate. So what we need to do now is with the seller is to be absolutely transparent and clear. What if there's a reduction? What if the co-op agent comes in and says, I'm going to take no commission? Is the assumption that the listing agent is going to get all the commission now? Did you have that conversation with the seller?
He said yes, the listing agent.
You got to have that conversation. I don't want to get a call.
But the property broker doesn't have to, the property brokers.
They made it very clear. They're sacrificing the Here's the impression that they're under, and they said that on the Oria seminar. We are not taking any commission, but their expectation was that you lower the price by the equivalent of what the commission is. That isn't always the case, and this is what's really disturbing to a lot of sellers is that I thought I was negotiating based upon them not getting any commission on the co-op agreement. I saw that on that 320, right? I automatically assumed I was going to pay less commission, but it didn't boil down to the amendment. It's got to be on the amendment. Okay.
But that's the listing brokerage work, not the property.
It's a listing that, yeah, well, you have the relationship with the seller who's paying the commission.
So the property broker is okay just doing it on the confirmation of co-op.
Well, they can request it, but we have to solidify it and we have to boil it down to the contract. Okay. 7.0, final point, guys. We're almost exactly an hour. Following the completion, let me scroll down. Where's 709?
Charles, there's a question in chat.
Oh, there is? What is it? When reporting a change in status on an MLS listing, example, sold firm, and it must be reported no later than the next day. Is that business? Yes, it's the next business day. If paperwork is provided to the office immediately, does our admin staff have to update status changes on the weekend? So weekends are not business days. Let's get that absolutely clear. So if you submit the paperwork on a Friday, 11:59 p.m. Monday, as long as Monday's not a holiday, is the deadline. Okay. Now, what happens between Friday and Monday? We're open. We can still report it, guys. We can report it early. There's no rule against reporting things early. There's only rules against reporting things late. So under the old rules, we had until Tuesday to report it because it happened on Friday. 2 business days is Monday and Tuesday. They have they cut 1 day off. That's the pure gist of it. All right, let's look at the final point, 7.09. Following the completion of the transaction, no funds shall be transferred or paid to the benefit of the listing brokerage or third party into the remuneration trust amount has been dispersed to the cooperating brokerage. As I mentioned that in the previous, so we cannot pay you guys as listing brokerages, agents, until the cooperating broker has been paid in full. Okay, now, if there's ever a circumstance where that comes into question, please reach out to Jason Colatasi or myself. We will try to smooth the situation over. I don't actually just recently there was a seller who refused to sign off on the commission being paid to our agent. We actually will probably be taking that to litigation. It's unfortunate, but we are going to pay the cooperating brokerage because that's not what's in dispute. It's the amount that was due to our listing agent that has come under fire. And it could be because there was a lack of communication during the offer presentation as to what was going to happen with the total commission, right? Maybe that agent didn't boil it down through an amendment, right? And say, yes, this is the total commission payable to the brokerage. People have misunderstandings all the time. We can only go by what's on paper. All right. Okay, it's 11:08 a.m. We exceeded our hour just by a little bit. Are there any questions out there?
I just have a comment. I
Yeah.
think it's great. I think that this is going to solidify the consumer's faith. in
Absolutely. So
I think they're really good.
Minnie is saying that this is going to solidify the faith that the consumer has in our own MLS system. Accuracy of the information. You know what? No shenanigans. Okay. what the information that we put in our MLS system should be rock solid. Okay? That's the way it always has been. That's the way it always should be. So for people who want to go out there and put misinformation on our MLS system, and I know there's like people deleting photos, right? You're not allowed to delete photos. They're not your photos to delete. Yeah, you may have paid for the photos, but once you upload them to the MLS system, they're no longer, it's not for you to decide anymore. Okay. Rose, I see you've unmuted yourself. Do you have anything to
I
add?
do. I just want some clarification. So if I am the cooperating brokerage representing the buyer and the listing brokerage, is it their responsibility, for example, it sells firm today or it's sold conditional today? I send in my paperwork to our admin immediately and then it hasn't been updated. So maybe the buyer calls me and says, well, how come it's not sold yet or sold conditional? And I know that I've sent it to my admin staff. Whose responsibility is it? The
The
listing
listing
brokerage?
agent has to send it to their, either they can report it themselves if they have that ability on ad edit. Now, let's assume that the deposit check accompanied that offer and it was firm. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, so you've done everything right as the cooperating agent, and the cooperating brokerage has all the information. We're going to take your information, we're going to put it into our system. However, we don't represent the listing, do we? The other brokerage does. So what are they doing? What you just mentioned is almost common practice. Have you noticed? Why do these guys take so long?
Right.
Because the rules let them take all the time in the world. Well, you don't have all the time in the world now. You have until
So whoever
11:59
gets
p.m.
fined, they would investigate and say, this agent submitted, the paperwork on time, but the brokerage didn't update it, or is
So-
that how they investigate who gets fined?
Well, yeah, exactly. So there are lots of new professional standards and arbitration people on the committee and staff at TREB, because obviously TREB's going to be administrating the fines. You'll see that a lot of them, when you provide all the paperwork and they look at all the historical data on the MLS system, which you can't erase, they're going to come to a conclusion pretty quickly. Because they're going to see when you on your confirmation of acceptance, is there a date and time? Yes.
Mhm.
So they're going to know exactly when this thing was accepted. Why did it take so long? Laziness? Oh, I was getting my hair done and it took 3 days. I don't know.
Mhm.
What are the excuses? And especially in a day, the digital environment that we exist in today, there's almost no excuse as to why these people are taking so bloody long to report. Would you agree or
Okay, as
disagree?
long as you do, I guess you're doing your part, they investigate and the right person gets fined, I guess, is what I'm saying.
Exactly. I'm gonna share a little story. Actually, I won't even mention the brokerage because you probably just by the story you'll know what brokerage it is. Or imagine putting in an offer as a co-op agent, and it's a nice luxury home. It's $100,000 deposit that you've accompanied with this offer, and it's conditional. See, it's conditional on financing and inspection. And so you've submitted the $100,000 to the listing brokerage, and lo and behold, you find major issues with the home during the inspection. Okay, so you send them a mutual release. We can't get the $100,000 back. Why? The listing agent hasn't even submitted their paperwork to the listing brokerage. Look, we don't even know about this deal. We saw that you've got the check. Someone dropped off a check at one of our branches. We deposited that check, but we got no listing paperwork. So how do we get that money out of their account? This went on for a week. And finally, our agent went, would you like a copy of my paperwork? I shouldn't have to give this to you, but I can give you the paperwork. And luckily, the person that I was dealing with over at that brokerage used to work at one of my brokerages. And I was just like, hey, look, put it in the system. If they have a disagreement, we got to get our client back their $100,000. They want to put another offer on another property. And this brokerage is holding the whole bloody process up. It's unacceptable.
Mhm.
So we do know that there are idiot agents out there that do not submit paperwork. So
Yeah.
we're trying to come up with rules to curtail this kind of behavior. So help us out, guys. You know, let's follow the
That's
rules, right?
Thank you.
No problem. Okay, 11:13 a.m. Boy, I got 16 of you guys on. I couldn't be happier that the vast, majority of you that are active out there have joined me today to cover these rules. They come into effect today. So I'm going to be sitting with Shelly and probably with Ashley, going through all of our dozens of listings and try to see if there's any TREB violations on your behalf. But if you guys, after taking the training, know specifically that your listing is not MLS compliant, please let the front desk know. We can make those changes for you. Or if you have all your ad edit privileges, please go into your listing and make those changes because those will take effect today. Okay?
Hey, Charles,
Yeah.
a quick question. It's D.
Yeah.
When it said the amenities, if they're not in view, so say I've got a house, but
Yep.
then the virtual tour shows and has a said, go train, 2-minute walk, school, 1-minute walk. Is that okay?
That's okay, only because it exists in a third-party platform. You get what I'm talking about? So that's a link to somebody else's virtual tour and whatever video that might have been.
So I
right?
can't put the Go train station in my 40 pictures on the MLS. That's not allowed.
Correct. The
Okay.
actual photos that you're uploading to MLS directly cannot show amenities or depictions of anything that are not in direct view of the subject property.
Okay, video can, where he shows a drone shot of this, that, the other. Blah, blah.
Correct. Correct.
Okay.
Okay.
Yep.
There's a couple more things in the chat here. Great explanation. Jump to the latest. Oh, thanks, Minus. Thanks for joining. Minus, I think that I think you're on some of the committees at TREB. You probably have heard some of this through TREB as well. For those of us who volunteer at TREB, we always get the inside track on things that are happening at the board. And I actually met with Minus on one of my we had a commercial government relations subcommittee meeting, and I saw Minus there, so I was happy to see that some of our agents are participating and volunteering for the board. So kudos to you, Minus. Great to see you. Okay, so I'm going to end it here, guys. If you have any further questions, please. Oh, is it downloadable? Yeah. Go to your. Oh, hang on here. Let me go to my home screen. If we go to Realm, oops, TREB member. I'm going to share this with you guys. Share screen. Can you see that? Right here, new MLS rules take effect on December 2nd. Okay, just go to your dashboard. Don't click on Realm or don't click on search properties. Click on this and download the entire 27 pages. Okay. All right, I'm tired. I will see you guys in person hopefully fairly soon. For those of you who are going to be joining us for our Christmas lunch on Wednesday, I'll see you at the Pickle Barrel on Wednesday at noon. All right. Till then, guys, take care.